So, playing as Skaven against the mighty Bretonnia, we have brought with us today a weapon teams build with a ton of slows, not just in the Rattling guns, but also on our Greyseer. He has the Warp Storm Scroll, minus 48% speed, combined with Rattling guns, will slow down everything so that they basically can't move. While they can't move, our Jezzails will be able to pound them down. And we also have a multitude of anti-infantry options in case those do come our way, with the warpfire throwers and poison wind mortars. These mortars are a little bit more questionable in this build. It could be a bit overkill, but we had extra money, so let's play around with them a tiny bit. Teacher sales can go on too. For the defense, we have a ton of clan rat spears and Skaven slave spears. I wish we could take more, but sadly Skaven only have 20 units to their name per battle. Oh yeah, and of course we also have warp grinders. These guys will be our main answer to any Bretonnia knights that we see. Hopefully there'll be enough. I'm a little bit skeptical, but we shall see. I think our opponent is ready too, so we'll give him good luck, have fun, and see how this goes. His army is pretty sizable, so hopefully we see infantry. Let's see, what the, oh, Rattling gun's a little bit out of position, there we go. And yeah, so fun thing about the dreaded 13th spell, it has a range of 200 meters, which is 50 meters more than Captain Roth's Moondial, which puts it in makes it very useful for catching out just about anything really. But yeah, anyways, our opponent, he's opted for 3 trebuchets, I guess expecting a box heavy build from us. And meanwhile, we were expecting some flying units, but we have none of that today. He has a whole ton of spearmen at arms, Fey Enchantress, and a paladin squad. And that looks to be about it, plus some Knights of the Realm. So cool. We have our warp grinders in place. So as long as he doesn't have a whole ton more of those cavalry units in the forest, we should be fine. Okay, so let's see here. You could try to shut down these trebuchets early. And you know what? I feel like trying it out. So that's what we're going to be doing. Cavalry flanking along the sides to try to catch our guns from the flank. But we do have spears in place, so not the biggest problem there. In fact, a little bit out of position with my troops. Come on, get in place, hold them down. Yeah, our opponent had tons of knights actually, so that's gonna be fun to deal with. We do manage to stop one of them, and that's another knight unit out of the problem. We'll hit those guys with some warp fire, but now, oh dear, it looks like we have a little bit of a hero problem. Let's see if we can time this perfectly. So you have knights charging in, and oh nice, he turns away from the dreaded 13th, but hey, at least we got our summon off, and they can do pretty well. We also have Skaven slaves that will be eventually denying those, what's it? Oh no, is this guy gonna rout at full HP? Freaking Skaven. We have some Skaven slaves that are going to try to get to those trebuchets. But ooh, this is looking pretty rough. We faced quite a few knights, routed off a whole bunch of them. But now we have a hero squad that is giving us quite a bit of trouble. We honestly do not have... Oh man, these guys were over chasing. That's why. So yeah, basically we over chased with some of our spears. And it made it so that it was pretty difficult to pin down these heroes. We're still gonna try though. And hopefully if we can murder the Fey Enchantress, then we'll be good. But man, a lot of cavalry from Bretonnia here. It's making it rough. Let's see, and there we go. Our weapon teams are routing. And that'll probably be it. Yeah, rip. GG. So, yeah, I think next time we'll probably just stick with warp lightning cannons. Although I do feel like that was a lot of cavalry. I don't know how I feel about that build. He did have the trebuchets. So, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, whoops. Oh man, I took my screenshot at the wrong time. Oh dear. Well, while we wait for that to load, I'm going to go over the builds for just a second. Yeah, I think 2 warpfire throwers is more than enough to deal with any Bretonian infantry. So I think we will still lean on these guys. I also very much like the warp grinders, since they catch the cavalry so well. You saw even with 4 heavy cavalry units, we shut them down pretty nicely. I also like the rattling guns, but I'll probably cut the poison wind mortars and instead replace them with something like warp lightning cannons instead. Although then again, he did have the forest advantage there, so warp lightning cannons might not have done too well. Instead, actually, probably could have gone more spear units. So maybe cut these 2 guys for some storm vermin. Maybe that would have done us well. So let's see, my scripts are still loading, but I do see that we got a 2-month sub from Perk. Thank you. You are the 3rd person to have ever subbed for 2 months. Congratulations. Optimus Pine. Poison Wind Mortars are the most OP on the Skaven roster though. That is true, they counter Bretonian archers, but a build like this is not afraid of Bretonnian archers at all. I think we have overkill on anti-infantry. Just because if we have a ton of Jezzails, they can shoot the archers. And all of our weapon teams actually have just a ton of armor at about, I think, 90 armor. Along with small hitboxes means that archers are not a huge problem here. I would actually be happy to see a heavy archer build. Oh man, my script's loading so long. But yeah, more spears for sure. Could take a whole bunch of Skaven slave spears. Like honestly, if we just held off that, well, even if we held off that the cavalry force a little bit better there, the hero squad was definitely a problem. In fact, against Bretonnia specifically, maybe I do want to take something like a Snicket's Death Squad. That would probably be a good option. By the way, the script that I'm speaking about is something to save my replays and screenshot the end screens here. So basically what it does is it pulls in all the information from the end screen, looking at all the kill counts, the HP of the unit, and the unit itself, and throwing that all together into a spreadsheet for me to review later. Really nice if someone asks for a specific matchup. They're like, oh, I want to see a replay from Vampire Coast against Empire. I can go to the spreadsheet, search for Vampire Coast and Empire, and it'll bring up all the games that I've played with that as that matchup. So pretty convenient there. Still working on it a bit, but at least the script that captures the information is about done. So pretty happy with that. See, rattling gunners are good, but protecting 10 missile units against rushes is difficult. I guess this was like a half rush, but honestly, the heroes, we just needed to deal with the heroes and we would have been good. Let's see. It was brutal and unexpected until I checked that you were streaming after battle. Yeah, I think the trebuchets are pretty good. And the ground hero squad definitely helped you out. If you had any flyers there, I would have been pretty worried for you. Could you share the script with us? Seems really interesting. I would love to, and I plan to set up some videos of it. But after I actually finish the reading script that figures out the kills, the HP, and the unit names, I got super burnt out on it. So I haven't been developing it a whole ton. And also, because I was a bad coder, I actually, oh, there we go, it's done running. I hard coded it to specifically read 1080 1080p. So like if these boxes for units shifts over left by 1 pixel, it will probably not work as well. And if it shifts by 5 pixels, the script will probably break. So it does need a little bit of tuning, but at least I can start sharing some cool data that I've collected so far. And yeah, that would be pretty and the highest win rate for handguns were 4 handgun builds. So my win rate, if I take 5 handguns, is actually lower than if I cut a bit and opt for 4. Which is actually interesting because most of my games are with 5 handgun builds. And that means I could be doing it wrong. But also the data could also be really biased. So who knows? I talked to Aerocrastic a little bit about it. And we haven't actually gone into any analysis yet. But he could probably tear apart my data. But yeah, anyways. So we're in the game now. And you can see here, we have 4 rangers charging towards us. Luckily for us, we have 4 warpfire throwers that will absolutely murder those guys. You're going to see in just a second why warpfire throwers are amazing. There we go. 1 volley goes off. And we already have rangers about to rout. There's also a Frostheart Phoenix here, who is about to take a nice beating from our let's see here, from our weapon teams. Oh god, come on, don't let him land. Okay, so we actually have techless landing, but that does mean that we can snare him with our warp grinders, which is pretty great. And oh, come on, okay, so we got 5 seconds on the warp grinder. And we have a Frostheart Phoenix over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn all of our guns and hopefully just absolutely murder it. There's also chariots coming in along the side. Our snare is used, so a little bit of a problem there. But there we go. 13 seconds left on the Frostheart Phoenix. Means that it should definitely be dying. You can see it is it's about to rout, which is great for us. And as soon as it starts running, there we go. That helps us a whole ton. There is still a techless that we have to worry about and lion chariots. So let's be a little bit careful there. But honestly, if we turn our guns now, we might actually be able to deal with it. So let's see, trying to shut down these chariots. We do have a bunch of spears here to support. And our rattling guns should be doing okay. Frostheart Phoenix coming back. We're turning our Giselles to try and deal with it. And now we're also bringing in our warp grinders to stop those chariots. There we go. We've routed the Phoenix again. And yeah, we're feeling okay. Let's see, we have a Mage of Death here, charging the warp grinders. We'll just lock it down and see if we can go and kill it. Lion chariots too. Could also use some locking down. So let's just freeze them up. And nice, we can see the Mage of Death now taking a pretty big beating. Frostheart Phoenix coming back in. We'll show him the error of his ways as we turn our guns once again and begin shutting him down. But there is a problem here, and it's these darn chariots. We have a bunch of spears to sort of hunt them down, but man, these chariots are hard to deal with. I think the Skaven build, it's nice, and you can see here, like, you know, a 30-second stun really just lets you shoot air units for days. But you can see like stuff like Techless. Oh dear, oh no, oh that's bad. All right, well anyways, there's also the problem of blobbing up and taking a whole ton of damage from AoEs. Oh man, that hurts. But you know, not the worst case situation. And like, look, we get to snare the chariots, so that helps a lot too. And you know what? Maybe if we just unload all of our guns on them, then things will go pretty well. We've also routed off all of those infantry troops, which helps quite a bit too. And I'm really hoping that that pays off. Let's see, how are our guns doing? We only have a handful of guns. Oh man, Techless. So what tank is doing here that is really helping him out is he's keeping... Oh wow, they didn't get snared. Oh, that's terrible. Anyways, he's keeping Techless well and far away from our guns. Oh, we missed the snare too, freaking. Anyways, what was I saying? Yeah, so what tank is doing here is he's been keeping Techless very far away from any major threats. And that's causing us a lot of problems because it means that we can't pin him down with our snares. And he's just causing a whole ton of pain for our range units, like our Giselles. So we're going to have to see if there's a way we can get him caught. There is the Mage of Death incoming too. We will be able to, you know, snipe him out with Giselle, so that's not a problem at least. But honestly, we might not have enough guns to handle this situation, especially with Techless. He's been healing up these chariots, and man, those chariots are they're so annoying. We just can't deal with them at all. We're also getting shot up by archers, but they're a lot less of a problem for me. I'm not nearly as worried about them. What I am worried about though is Techless, who is just sitting outside of range of our Giselles. But anyways, let's see, where are my warpfire throwers? They're getting caught in my infantry. A little bit of a problem there. So we're just going to keep pushing up with them, but they have routed now because of those archers. Techless continuing to stay far away from our Giselles. Good on him. But finally we get a snare down, and those chariots can't really come into support. It's just that we only have one Giselle unit left, and Techless isn't going to be taking a whole ton of damage. We do have our slow, which will be coming down after, but I think we really did want 3 Giselles in this situation. You can see Techless just tanking out the damage real well. We will be comboing though, putting down another slow on him. And hopefully the Giselles will be able to take him out, but ooh, it doesn't look like it, especially with the low ammo. We do still have our warp grinders, but honestly, I think Techless could probably take out the rest of the army. So we'll give it a GG and concede this fight. I'm thinking versus High Elves. I probably just want a lot more Giselles. That feels like a much safer bet here. We did completely nuke the Frostheart Phoenix. That felt pretty nice. And we also melted all of the Rangers. But man, that chariot is such a pain. Usually the solution here is you would take something like a monstrous unit like rat ogres, but we have a problem where our rattling guns are just costing just a lot of money. We do have storm vermin though, and if we cut a storm vermin, a warp grinder, and a Skaven slave spear, that would let us take a hell pit abomination. Yeah, not sure. Well, okay, this will help a lot for sure. I think our main threat here, probably razor gores, but we'll have to see. Infantry should most definitely be dealt with here. We have so much firepower that a frontal assault stands basically like just no chance at all. If they are supported by chaos spawn, then that does change things up a tiny bit. So we'll see how that plays out. We have 5 warpfire throwers and 3 rattling guns, with the primary job of holding the front line for us. So much so that I think we won't actually need a lot of spears on the front line. So not enough doom wheels. That's true. We could have taken the doom wheel. Actually, I think a doom wheel would be pretty good against chariots too. Something to think about. But okay, so our front line. Yeah, we have a ton of firepower and a million slows from our rattling guns. Hopefully they'll be able to slow down the entire front line, and then that will just be enough damage to win us the game. If they do manage to get close though, we have our Lord, who will be putting out summons as needed, and a third line of Deathglow Bombardiers to kill any Chaos Spawn that manage to get too close. To defend against cavalry in the back, we have a ton of Clan Rat Spears and an extra unit of Regiment of Renowned Clan Rats to help us out. These guys should hold just for quite a while, and any cavalry would have a pretty hard time getting in the back. If they do decide to stick around for a committed fight, we can also turn our Deathglow Bombardiers to hopefully melt any threats that we see. Now let's see here. Warp grinders, we're going to put on 1, death globes on 2, and rattling guns on 3. Our warp fire throwers will be a part of our front line, so we'll throw them on 9. And yeah, let's see how this goes. So yeah, I actually feel pretty confident here. There's also a low enemy troop count, so if we do see infantry, it would be in pretty low numbers. Our opponent has opted for double Razor Gore Chariot, so once again, the mighty chariots being brought against the Skaven. I think a Doom Wheel probably would be a really nice choice here. And we see there are indeed a whole ton of cavalry options coming in from the Beastmen, moving in to flank our spear units. However, we have deployed them on the side, which means that they they are already in place to screen against that Beastmen mobility. Name of the game is to move in as quickly as possible so that we can shut down the interesting double Cygor style from the Beastmen. A little bit of miss micro from me, allowing my death globes to take quite a bit of damage, and also a little bit on our rattling guns. Not optimal there, but we're still doing okay, and we're going to now be positioning to make sure that these guys don't get a charge on us. It's a little bit of a shame that we have so many warp fire throwers against a non-mobile build, but hopefully, actually, I got an idea. We can put the warp fire throwers in the back, which makes it harder for the Beastmen to charge in with his mobility. We don't have too much infantry to worry about in the front anyways, so no problem there. The Razor Gore chariots, however, would still probably be a problem. But hey, here's an idea. We can actually use the dreaded 13th to shut down these Cygors. So we're going to do just that. And there we go. We've shut down one of the Cygor units. So nice there. These Harpies could come in and cause some problems. But we have our slow that we can throw down. And some dogs coming in who's are going to eat death globe shots. Means that we're in a pretty good place. Harpies coming in, we have a slow for that. And Centaurs getting a nice charge on some of our guys. No problem, because once again, death globes should be able to shut them down. There's a big route along the right side from our opponent, but we have Centaurs on the death globes now. A little bit more of a problem, especially now that we have chariots coming in. However, a nice pick on the left side means that the Centaurs are caught, and we can also turn our death globes to start hurting. Oh, we forgot our storm vermin. Whoops. You can also turn our guns to kill those Centaurs. Some hounds coming in are also no problem, as we're seeing a huge rout on many of the flanks from the Beastmen. Really the main problem coming in around the center, where chariots are mucking up our back line. At this point, we're going to see how well our build fares versus chariots. I don't think too well, because it's mostly going to come down to how well those death globes do. And with many of them compromised, could be a problem. A little bit of lag there, but okay. Yeah, a huge fight in the center. There are a million summons that have gone down, and oh no, some rallying Centaur units are definitely going to cause some problems too. Charging into our rattling guns, and oh, this is looking rough. Yeah, huge compromised backline is definitely a problem, but we're going to see if we can avoid hitting army losses. Ooh, those Centaurs do manage to move back, and oh no, it's looking rough. We do get a nice shot on the Centaurs there, but man, chariots today giving us huge amounts of problems. I think definitely some changes, and I'm calling changes already because this is looking real rough. Some nice changes. We definitely need some sort of monstrous unit in the center to hold the fort against stuff like this. You know, the summons in the center of our army just are causing way too many problems. But yeah, those chariots, huge problem. I think I would have thought that our summons would have done well there, but chariots do have quite a bit of mass. So we're gonna call it GG there, and probably tweak our build once again. It was a little bit of an unorthodox build from the Beastmen, but still, I think we probably could have set up a bit better. Focusing so hard on that anti-infantry really punished us there. Yeah, you can see those chariots ran amok. Definitely a bit of a problem. Yeah, rat ogres are the typical counters to stuff like this, but I don't want to go rat ogres, that's boring. But I think a major boon that we have this time around is that there are no you don't have to deal with freaking chariots again, who've been giving us quite a few problems. So as long as we don't get run over by cavalry, which I would say is the most likely thing to happen here, then I think we're okay. I think. But I don't know, cavalry is a pretty big option. And also there's the Volkmar problem, which, you know, we do have a Doom Wheel and Dwarf Thing Menace, but it's gonna be sketchy. In fact, I think one minor problem with the Dwarf Thing Menace is that it doesn't cause terror. And fear is good, but I would have really been a little bit more comfortable if we had some way to terror out the cavalry that will inevitably come charging in towards us. But okay, we do have our nice group of Jezzails here, who are our main anti-single entity killing power, along with a healthy amount of warpfire throwers, because who needs infantry when you have warpfire? There's also a Skaven slave spear, just because I had an extra one, and they will be staying here and ready to jump and slow down any infantry that try to get on top of the warpfire throwers. For our anti-cavalry, we have a Doom Wheel and a Dwarf Thing Menace, and that's it. That is our entire build, and we're gonna see how well it holds up against an Empire force of 700. Oh dear, oh dear. Here we go. We'll put those guys on 9, these guys on 3. Oh, we already have 3 taken. We'll put these guys on 5 then, and good luck, have fun. To Francis. Let's see if this works. Oh man. Man, really, the only success we've had so far with our crazy builds like this were against the we're against vampire counts. That's mostly because warpfire throwers did so well there. And okay, we're up against war wagon mortars, which, okay, so it looks like our opponent is going for a pretty heavy skirmish style with a bunch of knights, mortars, and that's about it. So nice. That actually, it fills me with confidence, especially since we have this bad boy coming in a little bit too close to the sun, nearly getting stun locked to death. That would have been great, but not today by the looks of it. Some pretty frequent stuttering and lag coming in from the game. Not too much of a problem. And we're actually holding up pretty well against the mortars. You can see they're having an incredibly hard time getting damage in on our weapon teams. So that feels pretty nice. And yeah, our opponent is just going to continue playing keep away. You know what, honestly, if he delays so long that this becomes a draw, I can live with that. Because yeah, this build has been going pretty rough for us for a while now. Now he does fly in. He does shut down our Skaven slaves with the mortars though. But you know, shutting down Skaven slaves is not exactly a mighty feat. Now we do finally get the punish on Boris here, getting a 30-second slow on top of him. And on top of that, our rattling guns are now able to fire. So finally pulling off the combo, we do manage to essentially insta-gib Boris. You can see here, the snare is finally gone, but we just throw down another 30-second slow, and he melts away no problem at all. So we finally did it. We got the combo, a little bit of warp fire too, just to really punish him. And nice, we did it, boys. We did it. We finally did it. Oh my gosh, it took us 3 games. But yeah, so there we go. Boris is now dead, and we can finally advance on the Empire force with not a whole lot of fear. We can also start playing pretty aggressively with our mobile Dwarf Thing Menace and Doom Wheel. And I do expect those guys to do pretty well. A fireball coming in to snipe out our lord. It looks like our opponent very very keen on that kite game today. Interesting. I don't know how I feel about it. We do have mobile forces, so I think we should be just fine. Problem is though, our Jezzails are really lagging behind, and it means that we can't exactly pressure this guy too much. Continuing to play keep away with us. It is in accordance with the rules, so can't blame him too much there. We're just going to have to get this engage going as quickly as possible. We're going to see if he's paying attention, and we're going to throw down a dreaded 13th on those pistoliers there, and we do actually manage to get some damage in on them, so that feels nice at least. And man, oh man, I just really want to get the engage on this guy, but he is, you know, just the master of playing keep away. This will take a hot second, people. But you know, now that we're not worried about Boris and we're not worried about getting ambushed on this hill, we can take a pretty aggressive position and just push him back into the corner. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. He will likely continue to try to snipe out our lord, and having served his purpose of killing Boris, it means that he can, the best option for him is probably just hiding behind this hill. So he's going to be moving over there as our Jezzails get in position, and we continue to bear through this tremendous lag coming in on this game. So okay, fireball going down, and lag subsiding a little bit, but no, it continues. And nice, we do get a dodge on the fireball. It was an overcast one too, so pretty nice situation for us. Pistoliers coming in to shoot at the doom wheel, getting only a tiny bit of damage in. So yeah, we're just going to continue moving up, and our advance should eventually catch our opponent here. We do finally manage to rout off some spearmen, so that's a plus. And our Jezzails will be able to fire on some Empire Knights now. So all around, things are looking much better. Honestly, a bit surprised that our opponent hasn't opted to just rush down our weapon teams with his knights. So yeah, we'll continue to push the advantage. Okay, so he is now moving straight into the corner, and we'll see how that pays off for him. Of course, the corner gives a pretty nice advantage in that you can't get flanked. But oh, is he gonna hit our lord? Hey, he does. That hurts. But yeah, so staying in the corner does give you a pretty nice advantage because you can't get flanked. But luckily for us, we're not really here to flank our opponent. Instead, oh dear, he's advancing. So yeah, he's close to the edge of the map, which means that they will be running off a little bit faster. We do slow down the advance quite a bit with the rattling guns, just a surprising amount actually. And now we get some warp fire on the Empire Knights, and so far it's looking not bad. Our doom wheels were in a bit of a bad position, which did hurt us a tiny bit. But with them now finally charging in on the Empire Knights, it looks like things might actually go okay. We get a rout on one, a rout on another, and yeah, it looks like the Doom Wheel and Dwarf Thing Menace combo is actually paying off. These Empire Knights are going to be continuously pressured by the rattling guns and warpfire throwers to make sure that they route off the map. And yeah, now we just have some pistoliers engaging our warplock Giselles, but they do have 70 armor, so they're not too worried about pistoliers. In fact, let's see here. We're going to bring our Doom Wheel over to the left flank, and there we go. There we go. We finally managed to get a win off. A little bit of a brutal game since our opponent was pretty timid, and he also lagged the game quite a bit. But yeah, we actually did the warpfire throwers actually did quite a bit of damage to the Empire Knights. So I was pretty happy to see how well they did there. And yeah, pretty happy about that. I think, you know what, if I'm going to take one thing away from this, it's that I think warpfire throwers are just they're the bomb. And I'll probably be taking them once I go back to normal Skaven builds, instead of focusing more on infantry. Oh man. I think, you know what, next time I'll probably continue trying to play Skaven, but instead it's going to have a focus on rat ogres. And yeah, I don't know how to spend 400 gold as Skaven. We'll probably head back to some more normal Skaven builds, you know, the usual rat ogres and blah, and you know, what were they called? Screaming bells? Something bells. Along with a lot more infantry. But instead, we'll also take warpfire throwers, which actually do surprisingly well against cavalry. It's all about just positioning them correctly, which in this case might actually be pretty easy, since we do have these two walls here, and it means that we don't have to worry as much about flanks. So that's a plus for sure. We also have our rattling guns. And yeah, man, it's always weird when I describe how our army setup is going. It always ends much faster than I would expect. But yeah, it's literally just a bunch of warpfire throwers, rattling guns, and Giselles. Going to be trying to gun down the forces of the Lizardmen as quickly as possible, hopefully before they engage on top of us. We do have quite a bit of anti-infantry, but on the anti-single entity front, we do only have 5 gun units. The Ixcha's triads should help a little bit here, but how much, I'm not entirely sure. They're called Taco Bells. Thank you, Optimus Pine. But okay, yeah, we get into the game, and it looks like we got some skink skirmishers to start us off. I'm just going to move up our warpfire throwers, and if our opponent doesn't pull back, that would be pretty great. For the flanks, he does have a unit of feral cold ones, who, you know, they're not a problem at all. There we go, we get a nice warpfire thrower shot off, which secures us. Wow, a pretty nice lead right off the bat, honestly. That went pretty well. Feral cold ones moving along the side. We'll be moving in our dwarf thing menace to shut those guys down. And then moving the Ixcha's triads up to get a summon. These guys should be able to shut down those, to start delaying the infantry. And we can also get a whole bunch of damage on that Saurus Scar Veteran. You can see he gets brought down to 1/3 HP, which is pretty nice. And also the Ixcha's triads holding up for our dreaded 13th spell. So Honestly, all this feeling pretty good so far. You can see the warpfire throwers even doing a lot of damage to Gorok. Pretty surprising there. And nice. Yeah, we'll just leave the Doom Wheel to chase off his lord as we start pulling back our warpfire throwers so that they can get into a safer position. Meanwhile, I think our guns will also want to pull back. And oh no, it's a Manticore summon. Just kidding, you can't move for 30 seconds. So nice. Let's see, it looks like our next point of action is probably to deal with this monster just sort of chilling in our backline. Let's see here. Yeah, we need these triads and the dwarf thing menace to come back. So we'll pull them over, position our guns, and I need to remember, Skaven weapon teams are surprisingly mobile. So we can actually just kite back with them to set up some better crossfires. Oh, Manticore unsnared, dives in on our guns. A little bit painful there, but we do manage to slow it down, which will hopefully help us out. We also now get some nice volleys off on that guy, and once again we can snare the we can snare the Manticore to make sure that doesn't give us too many problems. So things going okay right now. We did rout off their Sore Scar veteran, and we do have the next monster getting worn down by our guns. But wow, there's still a whole ton of infantry left for our opponent. Let's see, Dwarf Thing Menace doing okay, but we'll have to be very careful to make sure it cycle charges. And we do only have 2 units of Warpfire Throwers, which would have a pretty hard time versus all this infantry. However, not to be deterred, I think we're still okay, because we have our chariots. Just kidding, our Dwarf Thing Menace just routed. Let's continue to kite back. And hopefully, you know what, maybe we can even get a snipe on Gorok. Going to snare the Manticore again. And continue putting on that gunfire. I think a lot of this is really gonna have to come down to how well we control our cavalry. And by cavalry, of course, I mean our chariots. There we go. We rout off a unit of skinks, thus freeing our guns. We're going to focus the last single entity threat of Gorok. Thank goodness we finally get our Dwarf Thing Menace back, which we can send on to those onto the cavalry force, the mobility of our opponent. And there we go. There we go. A little bit of a scrappy game, but we did just barely manage to pull through. GG, Nicola plays. GG. Okay, so nice. That was pretty sketchy there, but I am still a crazy fan of warp fire throwers. I think I'll definitely be taking them in the future. But maybe not so many rattling guns and Jezzails, since man do they die extremely quickly. Yeah, I much prefer having monsters and hell pit abominations along with your typical Skaven sort of boxy strat. So I think what I do prefer here, I'll probably cut all of these guns sadly in the future and replace them with poison wind mortars. Maybe take 1 unit of rattling guns. But aside from that, I think that's about it. Everything else would be pretty typical after that. You know, just a bunch of rat ogres, hell pit abomination. Probably go back to Snickich, just because he's very powerful and very good for sniping lords. But I will continue to take these warp fire throwers. They are just way too fun. And you can see here 100 kills on one of them. Just a great unit. Very reminiscent of those zombie bombers. So yeah, pretty nice. I think this was some good experimentation, and you know, hopefully that knowledge will pay off in the future. But anyways, for now, I think I will be closing it out. So we had some pretty nice tests, but it may very well be time to put the gun build to rest. You know, we might revive it in the future. That should be it. Frent, what's up? Nice to see you. Sadly, we are closing out the stream now, but we will be streaming it again tomorrow at the same time, starting at 12 p.m. EST. If you guys want to catch that, you know how to follow, and if you want to see VODs, feel free to check out